But little did he know that I knew that he put on the location services on that phone, so he would be able to track me. This is my first story time, so I don't know how this is gonna go, but hopefully it's entertaining. I don't know. This is distracting. So this is the story of how I had to throw my phone in a bush one time. So in high school I had a boyfriend, and it's not Josh, it's a different guy, but at that time my parents really hated the fact that we were together, and also his parents didn't like me because I didn't know how to cook and clean as a 15-year-old or whatever. Basically the point is, our parents didn't really want us to be together, and it was just really hard for us to see each other, and you know, there's a lot of like sneaking around, and honestly it was just so exhausting. So I lived kind of close to this prestigious university. I won't name it just cause, and basically the university had a kind of like a few days program. Like twice a year I had like this program where high school students could come in and take classes for like a day or two from students at that university, or like TAs at that university, I don't know, but basically they were offering classes for high school students, and you would just spend the whole day there. And so basically me and my boyfriend at the time thought it would be a great idea to use this opportunity to just go on a date, because it would be like the only time that my parents weren't breathing down my neck, and you know, his parents wouldn't suspect that he was doing anything else except, you know, being at the program. So I had my dad drive me to the university that morning to sign in for the program, and I thought he was just gonna drop me off. But before that, my mom was just texting me on the phone, just like saying that, you know, I should just go home now. She knows exactly what I'm doing. She knows I'm gonna go see my boyfriend. And she was right, but I was denying it because I didn't want to get in trouble. And so my dad was, you know, he was driving me, and we were getting closer and closer to the main entrance of the university. So I was like, okay, you can just drop me off. But no, he was like, I'm gonna go in with you and make sure that you're actually taking the classes because your mom is kind of upset right now. There's a $40 admission fee to the program. And the thing is, I had already signed up for the program just to like make it look like that I was going. And I also applied for the financial aid option. Basically the financial aid option, they let you do it for free, so you don't have to pay the $40. And so thankfully I had thought in my head that I should sign up for the financial aid, even though I didn't think that I would need to sign in the first place, because I didn't think my dad would follow me all the way to the sign-in table, but he did. And you know, I thought he would just see the sign-in table then go, but no, he had to watch me sign in. I went up to the guy and I was like, hi, you know, like I've signed up, and then he was like, oh, okay, yeah, you don't have to pay anything because you signed up for the financial aid and you qualified. And I'm like, oh my god, thank goodness. And I mean, even if I did have to pay, I probably would have paid because I was that desperate. But I'm glad I got to keep that $40. My dad wants to see my class schedule, and so I show him the class schedule, and the first class on the list is a class about how to be a pre-med student. And he knows that I'm not trying to be a pre-med student, but my boyfriend is. So I thought that my boyfriend would want to take that class together. But turns out he didn't even sign up for the program at all. What a jerk. So my dad is like, why do you want to take that class? And I'm like, oh, cause I'm interested. And he knows I'm just like lying out of my teeth. And he's like, okay, well, if I see you with him today, you are not going to prom. And prom was like 2 months away, and you know, my parents had already like reluctantly agreed to let me go to prom. There were very high stakes at hand here, so I was like, oh shit, like this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go to my classes now. You can go back to the car now. And he was like, no, I'm gonna take you to your first class. And I'm like, oh my god, is this even gonna happen? As my dad and I are walking to my first class of the day, I see my friend. So we had planned for this to be a double date of sorts. And so let's call my friend Paula. That's the first name I could think of. Paula. So I see, me and my dad are walking to my first class, and I see Paula, and we make eye contact, and I can't really say hi to her because, you know, my dad's gonna start asking questions like, who is she? Like, how do you know someone here? And so we just make eye contact, and then I'm like texting her, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to go to my first class, like, oh my god. And so she and her boyfriend are already there, and my boyfriend is like late as always. And so I finally make it to my first class, and I actually have to sit down, and my dad is just, he's finally like letting me go. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go inside now. And I think that I finally got rid of my dad, so I'm like, okay, great, you know, like I can just like text Paula, and then we can get out of here and meet up with our boyfriends. And so the teacher starts lecturing, and I'm like, okay, maybe if I wait 5 minutes, then I can get out and then meet up with my friend. And so I open the door, and my dad is sitting right there. And so it turns out he was just planning on sitting outside and making sure that I just didn't leave. And thank God, when I opened the door, he was like sitting right along the wall. Here's the door, here's the wall, and he was sitting at this bench like right along the wall. And so I opened the door a little bit, and he's like sitting there. Thank God he was looking at his phone, so he didn't realize that it was me. And so I'm like, oh god, I have to go sit back down. And so I sit back down, and then I text Paula, and then I'm like, holy shit, I'm in this classroom, my dad's outside, I can't leave because he's gonna be expecting me when the class ends. And so and then so on the other side of the room, there's another entrance, and I see Paula kind of inching towards the entrance, and I see her, and I'm like, oh my god, you have to come sit next to me now. And so there are no seats next to me, and so she had to sit right next to the dude right in front of me, because that was one of the only open seats on that side of the room. And he was just like, who is this girl? Why is she sitting like right next to me? Because there were open seats on the other side of the room. But we had to like talk quietly about how we were going to plan this great escape and how to get rid of my dad. And so basically we have to sit through the entire 1-hour lecture, and when class is over, my dad is still outside. So we get up, and then we start walking, and I'm like, oh, so what class do you have next? Because I want to pretend that I just met her in that class. So it didn't look like devised or anything. And so I'm like walking really, really fast, and she's walking really, really fast. And eventually we do lose my dad. And when we turn the corner, we start running, and then we just like end up hiding for a little bit. And then my dad is nowhere to be seen. And so I'm like, okay, great, we lost him. And so I have one more problem at this point. That morning, before we left, my dad gave me a phone, and he was like, here, take this with you. And I'm like, I already have my own phone. And he's like, well, it's good to have an extra one. But little did he know that I knew that he put on the location services on that phone. So he would be able to track me with that phone that he gave me at any time whatsoever. And so I just have this extra phone that he gave me that morning in my bag. And I'm like, this is a problem. We can't go anywhere as long as he knows where I am. So it was kind of like a damp day, like it had just rained. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw this phone in a bush. And hopefully it's still there at the end of the day when we're done. And so I take a plastic bag that I had in my purse. I was prepared for this, okay? I was prepared. As soon as my dad gave me that phone that morning, I was like, I need a plastic bag. So I took a plastic bag, wrapped my phone in it, and then just tossed it under a bush. And it was just like right outside this building that could possibly have my classes for the rest of the day in it. So it was right outside that building, and it just stayed there for the whole entire day. And then me and Paula ran off to meet our boyfriends, and that was it. And then at the end of the day, I went back and I found it, and it was still there, and I don't think my dad really suspected anything. On some level, I think he knew. Yeah, that was one of the most nerve-wracking days of my entire life, because you know, if I had lost that phone, then, you know, my dad probably would have suspected something. But yeah, moral of the story, kids, do not lie to your parents unless you're really desperate. No, that's not a good message. So yeah, that's the end of the story of how I had to throw my phone in a bush and leave it there for an entire day. I hope you enjoyed the story. Let me know if it was interesting. Let me know if you want to see other story time videos. I don't know how this one went. Hopefully it was entertaining, but yeah, I'm actually not a very interesting person. Like, this is the only wild story I can think of on the top of my head, and it wasn't even that wild. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.